Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. You know, I always say all three because I'm not sure where you're watching from or when you're watching. It is your girl, Marcie Thomas, and I am so excited to be back here with you live again for an episode of Live Well Sister. So I'm coming to you from the outskirts of Atlanta by way of Cleveland, Ohio, and I just really love being able to connect with women from around the world, whether you're watching or as our special guests that come into this space to talk about different things that we are really dealing with in our real lives and coming up with solutions or plans or ideas that can help us really dig into knowing what it means to live well. So if this is your first time watching, please feel free to drop where you're joining us from in the comments just so we can know who all is here. And let's get ready to get into this very important and power-packed conversation. I'm just going to tell y'all up front, I really loved reading this book. This sister and I were kikiing in the background. I'm like, oh, it's time for us to go live. So I just want to let you know you're going to be in for an interesting, compelling, important conversation, but we also know how to, have a good time in the midst of all of that. So tonight we're going to be talking about white supremacy is all around. So just that title of itself is very intriguing, right? You probably wonder, what is this all about? So it is the book by Dr. Akilah Cadet, who is the founder and CEO of Change Cadet, an organizational development consulting firm that offers services that support embedding belonging into overall organizational identity and strategy. That's a mouthful, right? Now, she is a Forbes Next 1000 entrepreneur, and her work is behind some of the biggest brands you use daily. Dismantling white supremacy through storytelling is at the core of her work as a leader, speaker, creative director, producer, writer, editor, and author. She lives in Oakland, California, literally has all of the degrees, celebrates her disability, is a proud Beyoncé advocate, and has an incredible shoe game. So without any further delay, let's welcome Dr. Akilah Cadet to Live Well Sister. Welcome.
Hello. Hi, Marcie. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And I'm just going to plus one. We were kikiing. We were having a great chat. And then we realized we had to invite all of y'all. So
yes, y'all, come on in the room. As Tabitha Brown would say, come on in the room. So first of all, congratulations on putting your book out into the world. What has that process been like for you? Just celebrating that since it's been out for the last, couple of months.
Yeah. Well, celebration has actually been really hard with this book. Yeah. And the reason why I say that is that my book deal was in 2022. And so remember, take us back to 2022. Some of us were vaccinated, figuring it out. Some of us were learning how to go outside, but we were still upset about the murder of George Floyd. People were celebrating Juneteenth for maybe the first time, or second time figuring it out. And so when I got this book deal with Hachette, it's a top 5 publisher, a really hard book deal to get. We're excited. Now my book, it takes usually around 2 years for a book to come out. And my book came out February 2024 of this year. And 2 weeks before I went on my national book tour, my publisher was like, yeah, nonfiction did not do well in 2023, and we're not expecting it. We're expecting it to be a challenge in 2024. Wow. And that is how I was sent off to celebrate my book. Okay. And so that, in addition to, a lot of the climate changes, and I'm not talking about the election, but talking about how we're seeing types of genocide in multiple countries right now. We're seeing activism, we're seeing protest. And because white supremacy is all around, I believe in the liberation of all oppressed people. I've lost opportunities, right, as a result of that. Because if we think about the people who are in power, that these who don't want things to change, they don't want to dismantle white supremacy, then that means I'm not getting this interview, or I'm not getting this feature, or I'm not going to be speaking at this venue as a result of that. And so it's been very challenging because I have to deal with white supremacy while talking about a book with white supremacy, which I know and I knew would happen. It's just a lot more than what I expected. And so I've had celebratory moments with my pub day and a launch day. And I had a wonderful party here in my hometown of Oakland, California, which was really great and memorable. But it's a lot of work. And so I'm in this space where, as Black women, we are labeled as being strong Black women, where I'm solving a problem of the book that already solves the problem, if that makes any sense. So I'm not getting any, real softness in that. So celebration looks like you talking about how much you've enjoyed the book and showing me all your tabs. When people say they feel seen in any way, either through my disability, my intersectionality, being a woman, being a Black person, that's where I can have celebratory moments. This text message I have of someone telling me they just finished the book that I haven't read. That's how I find these little pockets of celebration, but it wasn't what I thought it would be.
Yes, and I mean, it's just the times in which we live, and it's unfortunate because it's an important book. So I'm just going to tell you, everybody that's watching, whether you're watching live or catching it in a replay, please, take a look at this book. Grab a copy, audio, whatever you need to do to dive into the work, because it is important. And it's the book probably isn't what you think it is, because I mean, the title in and of itself is very provocative. Yeah. And of course, she does not shy away from it. Actually, you get right into it in the beginning. We'll talk about that in a minute. You don't shy away from what the book is about, but then there's just so much more contained within the way that you tell your stories. And a lot of it, as I mentioned when I was talking, giving your intro, it is a lot storytelling, and you place yourself at the center of it, and then things that are happening around you. So before we get into some of the meat of the book, because here we don't tell you everything because you got to read it, but just in terms of being so open and honest about your journeys, both personally and professionally, was that a challenging thing for you to do in the process of writing?
Oh, no, not at all. I am an open book. I wrote this book because I'm on a journey of being a soft Black woman. And so I wanted people to read these stories and ask me questions that means you've already done some of the work. So I've had my company for 9 years, and I've been telling the same story for 9 years. Okay. I'm a storyteller. I love telling the story, but I wanted to make sure that people could really apply what they've been learning and unlearning, however they identify. And so that's why it was easy for me to do this. I role model the behavior folks should have. And so writing it down is just another tool for them to do the same thing. So they can value my expertise and time more, but they also can value their time and their expertise as well with how they show up and advocate for themselves and how they advocate for others. Now, the real reason why I have no problem sharing is that I can die at any moment in time.
Yes, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
So as a result of that, so when people hear disability and they see me, they're like, wait, how are you disabled? Because I'm joking around or I'm smiling and I'm a stunner. I'm beautiful.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. And it's called confidence and not ego, if anyone's asking. Because if you compliment yourself, then everything else is just a +1. So it saves a lot of time. And that's why I also wanted to be on the cover too. But my body has a rare condition. That's right. All of that body yada yada. That's what you're getting. And so if someone were to see that and be like, wait, white supremacy is all around. Wait, why does she have a cane? Wait, is she pretty? Oh my God, this book is yellow. Wait, she's disabled. I mean, there's so many questions that can come from the cover to cause intrigue. But my body has a rare condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or EDS. And what that means is my body basically doesn't know what to do with collagen, and it affects anything with collagen in it. Now, here's the fun thing. collagen is in everything in your body, your vessels, your skin, your organs, your joints, your ligaments. And so I can wake up and not be able to walk on an ankle, a foot, a knee, a hip, or my back. My back is hypermobile. My fingers dislocate all the time or subluxate. They'll go in and out. I have to put my sternum back in place a couple times in the week. And I'm like really bendy. So I have the moves, but it causes a lot of pain. And I live in an immense amount of pain. As a result of EDS, my body thinks it's having a heart attack every day. So the vessels and the arteries in my heart close. They just close for no reason. My heart is beautiful. It's structurally sound. It's really pretty. Yeah. But the arteries just close. And as a result of that, I get daily chest pain and the symptoms of a heart attack, shortness of breath, pain in my left arm. But if those arteries don't open up, I can have a heart attack and die at any moment in time. So I have to take medication every day. I have to have emergency medication with me wherever I am. I go to the emergency room a lot as a result of this. But knowing that I could die at any moment in time and have had near-death experience in the hospital, I just said, fuck it. I'm going to live my life. Right. And I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And that has been like my entire cheat code to being my true authentic self.
Mm-hmm. And it's so important that you are your true authentic self, because your true authentic self is spectacular. And
similar to kind of what we were talking about earlier, like workplace discrimination, unhealthy work environments. Also, that was part of the journey of me being my true authentic self, where I didn't want to fit in that box where so many people want to put, particularly Black identifying women. They want you to be in a certain box. They want you to be the mammy. They want you to be the Jezebel. They want you to be the fixer. They want you to be the strong Black woman, all that. And I was bending and doing all that I could to fit in this box, and it just wasn't healthy for me anymore. And being in those spaces, I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder too. And so working through and living with major depressive disorder that I still have was the other kind of precipice to just living my life and being my authentic self.
Yes. Yes. And that's so important. And that's a lesson for all of us, whether you have, a chronic illness or whatever the situation is. Live your life, be your best self, show up authentically. And I know it's not always easy, but, do that as much as we can. So I want to dive into the whole concept of white supremacy. Now, I'm skipping around a little bit because I want people to understand what it is for those who might not understand what it is. But as you describe it, you use a really great analogy, the beanbag chair analogy, which I thought was brilliant, or I think is brilliant, that's in the book. So could you tell us a little bit about what that is and how that equates to what white supremacy actually is?
Yeah. So, when we think about white supremacy, people tend to think of white people and or access to money and wealth. But really what white supremacy are the social determinants of health for white people to excel and grow and thrive in this country. It's really being able to have access to that American dream, owning the house, the picket fence, the job, the 2.5 kids, or whatever, that's what it's designed, for. And so the way I talk about white supremacy is two ways. One is the beanbag chair. And when I talk about white supremacy in the beanbag chair, I talk about a white person sitting in the white supremacy beanbag chair. Now, if y'all remember beanbag chairs, or if you still have one, when you get in that chair, it conforms to your body. It's comfortable, but it's also hard to get out of, because you're like, am I going to roll myself? How did I get into this little crevice? How am I going to get out of it? And so if you think about the white person, the white supremacy beanbag chair, watching their favorite movie, eating popcorn in their favorite pairings, they're living their best life. They're having a wonderful time. But next to the white person in the white supremacy beanbag chair is me, a Black disabled woman on the floor, because I was told I wasn't good enough for the white supremacy beanbag chair, the structure, the systems of white supremacy. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'm a strong Black woman. I can navigate this. So when I ask for my popcorn, I'm told I have to pay for it, even though it was complimentary. It was free 99. It was nothing to the white person next to me. And so I'm like, okay, all right, fine. I will pay for it. So I'm eating my popcorn, and then the movie's over. And then I say, hey, can the next movie have, disabled people in it? Or can the next movie have Black people in it? And then I'm told I'm challenging difficult hostile and an angry Black woman because I'm just asking
Mm.
for representation.
Right.
And so I talk about that white supremacy beanbag chair. So white people who have more power than even Dr. Akilah Cadet, international expert on white supremacy, at any level that they're in their respective spaces, wherever they are, their kid's soccer game, at work, cafe, you're taking the time to realize, oh, I have this white supremacy beanbag chair. So I can comfortably look around the room to see how can I get that Latina, Hispanic, Latinx person some popcorn. What can I do so that disabled person sees themselves on the screen? And then what can I do so like maybe today I can make sure that this Black woman next to me who's on the floor can also have this beanbag chair, the support to thrive, right? And grow. And that's what white supremacy is. Dismantling white supremacy, beanbag chair, dismantling white supremacy is both big and small actions daily to make sure that we all get the same thing. Now, what people fail to realize with white supremacy, because they automatically, again, don't want to go to those who are privileged, but they'll also think about white supremacists, Proud Boys, KKK, like they'll think about those folks.
Right.
But white supremacy means the systems and structures that are in place for people to thrive.
Right.
Right? For white people to thrive. I would love to have white supremacy daily. I would love to go to the emergency room and have my pain be believed. I would love to be pulled over and just get a speeding ticket or nothing because it's like, oh, hey, it's you. It's fine. Just slow down, right? And be fine. I would love to get a promotion and be mediocre and not know what I'm doing. I would love to, you know what I mean? Like, right. I think it would be great. I would love to be greeted when I go into a fine dining restaurant or a 4 or 5 star hotel as someone who's welcome and not a problem. I would love that. And that's what white people have. And when we talk about white supremacy and why they're afraid to give it up is because they know how people are treated who are not white.
Right.
I don't want that.
Well, oftentimes people say they want the rhythm, but they don't want the blues.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's R&B for a reason.
Right. Right. Exactly. I love that analogy. And then there's another one where you talk about like a cabin versus a shack.
Oh, yeah.
Similar.
The cabin versus the shack. So I think it's important to tell your listeners that the first chapter of my book is White Women Are Exhausting.
Right.
And so you mentioned earlier, Marcie, that I just get right into it.
Get right into it, like, woo!
It wasn't until I was like editing my book with my editor, I was like, wait, do I not like white women? I had to like literally ask myself this, but I was realizing by writing this book and then the work I've done for so many years, how white women will pick and choose. They will pick and choose. Am I white today? Or am I a woman today? Am I white today? You know, and they'll go back and forth. They will go back and forth. And so the reason why I wanted to go into talking about how white women are exhausting is by telling this analogy of the cabin and the shack. So imagine you are a group of, let's keep it simple, Black women and white women who are going up a hill. You're on a hike, you're going up this hill, you're doing it, solidarity, you're doing, yes, we're going up the hill, we're doing it. It starts to rain, but you're like, it's fine, we're women, yeah, we're going to just do it. And then once you get to that plateau, because you know it's there, you're dealing with the elements, you get the plateau, white women get to go into a cabin, luxurious, massive cabin with a crackling fire and all the healthy, fresh foods, whatever you want, soft, comfy surfaces. And then the Black women have to go to the shack in the back where there's things to start a fire and some water and processed snacks and a shack. So we know shacks aren't luxurious like this cabin that I speak of, right? And so when white women find out that the Black women who they were in solidarity with going up this hill are in the shack in the back, they can show up in different ways. One, they can say like, oh my gosh, they're in the shack in the back. Let's give them food. And that's what we call allyship. So go and give them food. Here's some of our food. We're going to share our resources with you. Like, yay. And then some white women can be like, they should just come in here. There's plenty of space. They should just come in here. We have heat, the warmth, the food. Come on in. Yay. You know, be together. And that's what we call an accomplice. Yeah. Someone who is moved past allyship and is actively doing the work and using their power and privilege for someone else who's oppressed, right? Or then there's the white woman who's like, it's not my problem. This is what I deserve, which is upholding values of white supremacy. And so that's why I talk about the cabin and the shack.
And I just love those analogies, just make it so simple to understand for those who might not have an understanding of what it all really means. And, you know, as you just said, you dive right into it and just talk about the relationships that oftentimes we have with white women. We have seen things in the news. So what we're talking about isn't anything new to anyone. Things in the news where, you know, white women will exert their privilege and, you know, do things that could potentially be harmful to us as Black people, women, men, you know, everyone, children, all of us. And just that it's an interesting thing to watch. And their tears and all of those things.
Oh, the tears. I mean, I think right now these Swifties are coming after me because of Taylor Swift's recent album. You know, everyone loves Taylor Swift, and, you know, she has some bops, little jams, and I get it. I'm not going to yuck anyone's yum, but she has a song that says, "I hate it here." And in that song, she says, we would pick a decade we wished we could live in instead of this. I'd say the 1830s, but without all the racists. And so there's white women right now on my Instagram defending her. And I'm not saying Taylor Swift is a bad person. I'm just telling you how white women are exhausting when they want to pick and choose, right, with how they're showing up. So Taylor could have picked any other decade. Right? She could have said the 1960s or the 70s. She's young. That's a long time ago for her too. At least when there was activism. Like in the 1830s, we had like infectious disease. We didn't have indoor plumbing. We had genocide of indigenous people. Our ancestors were enslaved. You know what I mean? But again, white women like to go into a position of comfort and think of like, oh my God, antebellum was so cute because like our dresses.
Right? They didn't have it easy back then to make it so crazy.
I know. But that's also why talking about how white women show up is really pivotal to the future of this country and what we're doing. Because a lot of people forget that, you know, when we were fighting, this country was fighting to, you know, abolish enslavement. There's a lot of people, the Confederates, who were like, yeah, no, I want to keep my enslaved people. I want to keep my property, right? But they also died in this war. So you know who's running the plantations? White women.
The women.
Right? And so that's why today the Karen comes from the plantation because they learned at a young age and historically from family generation to generation that they are better than, they have the power to, and no one can tell them what to do. That's also why they vote for Trump, because the, you know, who owned the plantation was the white guy or their daddy or whomever it was. They see power in that white guy because he's the top of the white supremacy food chain. But that's really, you know, why white women are exhausting, because they keep playing into that narrative that you are here to serve me.
That is something. Another thing you dive into is the fact that some people, it's like they might believe in some of the things that you try to teach them, anti-racism and all these other things, or, you know, the things that you try to coach them on, I should say, but they don't like saying white supremacy. So what are we supposed to say? It's not white supremacy.
I mean, Sonia Reed Taylor has a great way of explaining it with white delusion. You know, and so there's other ways in which people are bringing it up, but I personally feel we have to say white supremacy to dismantle white supremacy, right? And so when white people realize that we want, and when I'm saying we, oppressed people, so LGBTQ plus, BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, disabled people, so the groups that are not part of that dominant culture, they just want the same thing as white people.
Right.
And in this country, it's a crime for me to not want to die or be murdered or maimed by a cop when I get pulled over. Like that, oh my God, I'm asking for too much. Right? So in my book, I talk about I was in the middle of a drive-by shooting. I did not call the cops because I didn't want to die. I didn't want to deal. I didn't want to do any of that because I don't feel that police would want to protect me because I'm already the problem just by my appearance. Heaven forbid if I had these braids when that happened. Oh my gosh. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things because we see over and over again of how Black lives are disposable. right? When we come into that.
That's so true. And it's a shame that we don't feel like we can be protected. I mean, not only just our own selves, but oftentimes if we think of maybe the person that we would call about is a Black person, we're concerned about them, even though they might be in a situation where they've harmed us. So it's
It's a
a
lot.
real, it's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a
It's a
lot
lot.
to deal
I mean,
with.
it's the same as like, let's say a Black woman gets promoted into an executive level position at a company. We'll see her acclimate to white dominant culture and be afraid to hire any other Black people because she doesn't want to be viewed as a person who's bringing in Black people, because she wants the benefit and the money and the power and the privilege that comes from, having that role. Whereas no one ever questions when white people just hire white people.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's never a question. And so, so that's why dismantling white supremacy is really important. Dismantling white supremacy means everyone gets the same thing as heterosexual, cisgender, non-disabled white people. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. It's not hard.
Right.
Yet here we are.
Right. Yeah. So I can't remember the activist name during the Summer of Allyship, which we're going to get into here in a moment. But she made a statement, something to the effect that you should be glad we just want equality and not revenge.
Right. And so some white people think white supremacy means the opposite would be Black supremacy or AAPI supremacy, Asian American Pacific Islander supremacy. And it doesn't mean that. It just means all the same. I had someone at a book talk tell me that Black supremacy was real. And I said, please give me an example of Black supremacy. And she said, the music industry and the NFL.
Neither of which.
You know who's making money in the music industry? White people. You know who's making money for the NFL? White men. A lot of white men are making money.
Right. Right.
So I was like, okay, so glad you brought up the NFL, because I talk about the NFL in the book. And I'm like, the Combine is in February. It's Black History Month. The Combine is literally the slave block. We're primarily Black men, which the majority of the NFL players are BIPOC and the majority are Black out of the BIPOC demographic. They're literally told to jump, show me how you jump. We're gonna measure your muscle mass. We're gonna see if you're a good boy for our fields that we play in. Anyway, so I went on this whole thing and she didn't like it. I finished with Tim Tebow took a knee because he's against abortion, and Tebowing is a registered trademark, and he played out the rest of his career. Colin Kaepernick also took a knee for police violence and how Black and brown people are treated in this country, and he never played a game after that.
Right.
And he went to the Super Bowl prior to. And they're like, no, you're not coming back. And it's just something really sounds about white with that, So
that is something. Yeah, I have to bring this up real quick because you mentioned like Black women, because this book talks a lot about women, and we are women, so we're coming from a Black woman's perspective. One of the things that I had noticed, and you don't necessarily talk about in the book, but I just have to ask you about having white supremacist ideals as a Black person.
Yeah, so I talk about it in the chapter talking about when I go to Thailand, eat, pray, love myself, because the Black former NFL player that was my former friend, he upheld the values of white supremacy. He had that. So I get into it a little bit. If I'm lucky enough to have a second book, I do want to break that down. And so when we talk about dismantling white supremacy, we cannot talk about it as Black people, as Black women, without realizing it, how we carry it ourselves, right? So you and I have a lighter complexion. So you and I could get access to something that other beautiful Black women with deeper, darker complexions. We already know that, right? So, there's that, how we were raised, what neighborhood we were raised in, did you go to a certain church? All this stuff can uphold values of white supremacy. We also, because of whatever, just thinking about the work, like whatever our career was, like I said earlier, we can hoard on to something when we get the opportunity and not want to share it with others, because this may be it. And your parent may have told you, you just do whatever you got to do to stay in that job, whatever it is, because we have these generational things that we've learned also from the plantation.
Right.
Right. And so if I was around during enslavement, I was in the house. My daddy probably ran the plantation. You know what I mean? But we didn't talk about that. So that put me on a different trajectory. When there was the, Emancipation Proclamation of the 13th Amendment, and as we moved into Jim Crow, the people who worked in the house, they got a job as a domestic. The people who worked outside, they had a darker complexion. So they were doing service jobs, different, and so that caused difference. If we think about the history of AKAs, right? We know there's a brown paper bag test for that. We think about deltas, right? So we have it within ourselves. So what are we doing where we're upholding values of white supremacy that we have to break down? And I had to do that myself.
Yeah.
I understand how I look. I understand how I talk. And to some people, they feel like I talk white. And I just talk like the neighborhood I grew up in. I talk like the 3 degrees that I have. I talk like having a PhD mom and a JD dad. That's what I talk like. That's it. But to other people,
world Huxtable.
Right. We were. And to other people, before the stuff went down. But right. Right. To other people,
there's a difference.
Yes. The Huxtables, all about the Huxtables. But and so there's that too. I grew up in a primarily white neighborhood in Sacramento, California. Second to white people were AAPI people. I have a twin, and most of my K through 8, there was only 6 maybe Black kids, and one was my twin sister. So, I grew up in those spaces and places. And so I had to deal with stuff once I went to high school, where I was harassed and bullied and called an Oreo and all these horrible things, and followed around with a video camera because I'm dating myself, but and harassed and bullied as a result of being around other Black and brown people who just felt, because of how I look or how I sound or where I lived, that I was a problem. And so we have to address that within ourselves. Kanye West has not addressed that within himself, so I'm just saying, but yet people will defend white supremacy showing up in Black cultures. It's also Black men still having no problem with R. Kelly, right? White supremacy shows up by how there's this ongoing debate of, Black men dating white women, and then Black women can't date white men, and how we, and just the weight that's carried differently, right? And how, as Black women, as what we're talking about earlier, we have this unhealthy stereotype of being strong Black women, to the caretakers, the single mom, or whatever that trope may be. And, Black men don't necessarily they have horrible ones too, but they don't have that. Like no one says, hey, Black man, I need you to figure out why I don't understand what's happening with Gaza. That comes to a Black woman. In the workplace, it's like, hey, we got to fire that person. So, hey, Black woman, can you go fire that person? It's, again, because we were in this position historically to literally be the wet nurse, the caretaker. We're feeding for you. We're taking care. We're doing all this of service thing in a different way. So I could go on and on about that. But
yes, but I just had to mention it because it's something that we see. Now, summer of allyship. We know during the pandemic, a lot of things happened that made the news that people were paying attention to because they didn't have anything else to do. And so we had, a couple of months, where people really seem, or organizations, companies seem to really want to show us up as being supportive. And of course, in the work that you do, that was an extremely busy time for you.
Oh my goodness. Tell me about it. I've been busy I've been busy for 4 years. We're literally 31 days away from the 4-year unfortunate anniversary of George Floyd's death. So the summer of allyship, that a lot of people don't realize with the summer of allyship, is that Breonna Taylor was murdered on March 13th, 2020. And that was the week when people were like, do we go inside? Do we not go inside? What is a pandemic? What is COVID-19? What is this thing? So yes, there was outrage, but it wasn't anywhere near what happened about a month and a half later with the murder of George Floyd on May 25th, 2020. And so the interesting thing is that people were already inside if they were privileged enough. So again, if we talk about white supremacy, there's privileged enough to be inside because there are people who were delivering your food, who were still working the bus and, at the grocery store and whatnot. Right. So when we talk about the differentiating factor, it's that people had to sit in it. They could not go to their kid's soccer game. They didn't go on their summer trip. Their kid didn't have the summer school thing. They weren't at work. They couldn't go on to, you couldn't do anything except for be home and not catch this thing. Because remember, it took a year plus for the development of a vaccine that changed the way we could, live amongst a new infectious disease. And so people had to just see George Floyd be murdered over and over again. It was on social media. It was the conversation you're having in your little Zoom of family chat. It was happening at work. It was all around. You were literally seeing it nonstop. And then particularly for white women, they were like, he called for his mother? I'm a mom. That's not okay, right? And so some white people, for the first time, were seeing police brutality. Now, we already had Mike Brown, we had Oscar Grant, we already had all of that happening. We already had stuff on footage. But because all the other things of life were taken away, they had to process it differently. And so we saw a lot of people protesting. And they're like, we do not care. We're going outside. We'll mask up, but we have to say something about it. We saw this international outrage that was happening. Companies were like, what is Juneteenth? We're going to do it. Akilah, how do I do you know what, Akilah, can you just come and talk? Can you tell us what our DEI strategy should be? How do we have diversity, equity, inclusion? What is belonging? Should we be anti-racist? Wait, are we racist? And so I kid you not, May 25th was Memorial Day. It was a holiday. Also my mom's birthday, and my brother's birthday is January 6th. I'm like, y'all need to not have these moments. But they like the emails on the 26th. I don't know how they found me. I don't know. Because I didn't change anything different from that Friday before the weekend. I didn't change anything. They found me and they're like, we need you. And so I was doing like 15-minute meetings. So I would have, I don't know, something ridiculous, like 10 to 15 meetings in a day. And I'd do these 15-minute meetings and be like, tell me what the problem is. How much money do you have? Yes or no? I'll get back to you. And then we were just like getting back to folks as much as possible. I had multi-million and multi-billion-dollar companies coming to me to solve their problem because they didn't want to be racist. They wanted to fix their social media strategy, whatever it was. And so that lasted for like a year and a half, maybe 2, because they had to do the Juneteenth. So in 2020, they're like, we're going to do Juneteenth. We didn't know what's happening. It's May 25th. It's June. We can't do. Okay. So next year we're going to give it off for you. And so they had to prove that. Next year we're going to do a better Black History Month. So you're right. They had to prove that, like do all the other stuff. So 2021 was also busy. Most money I've ever made was in 2021. And then the end of 2021, 2022, it was like, are we in a recession or not a recession? Recession or not a recession? Because we did what we needed to do, which was like, we voted. We voted. And so we got Biden and Harris in the office, because that's also where that energy went from the summer of allyship. They're like, oh, we have an election year. We can flip the Senate and we can do all this other stuff. We can do that work. And then they realized that Biden and Harris weren't going to do anything really when it came to, and we're seeing that play out right now. And so, but then people are like, I was really into being uncomfortable. And I went to so many workshops and I read so many books, but like, I'm just ready to go back to just my life. I want things to be normal again. Right. And things being normal again meant upholding values of white supremacy and no longer caring. So for almost 2 years, Black people would go into a workspace and someone would open a door for them. And how can I help you? And I want to support you. And they're getting promotions, and DEI heads of departments of, DEI are getting hired left and right. And you're having all this resourcing, and creators and content creators are getting money. And then they're doing a collab with this up and coming design, like all this stuff was happening and then gone.
Now they're getting rid of it at every turn.
And one of my favorite things, and I say favorite with sarcasm, is that Zoom laid off their entire DEI team. And the amount of money I've made through Zoom was ridiculous, because I would do sometimes 2 or 3 workshops a day just from Zoom, right? Zoom was a way, and so many like diversity folks who were doing anything diversity. Thank you, Jean, for the summary. But they would, be in that position where they were providing this tool for people to connect, learn and unlearn. And now they're like, we don't need that anymore. We did it. We did our part. And so right now we're feeling the repercussions of the performative actions and behaviors of summer of allyship.
And that's something we're watching that play out. Now, of course, you do deal with a lot of, big corporations and things like that. And just from your own experiences, you've had times where before getting into your own business, you were in some of these spaces yourself. I do want you to talk a little bit. I mean, of course, we want people to read the book, but just kind of a synopsis of some of the experiences that you had and what led you to wanting to have your own business after going through some of the changes that you went through in more corporate space.
So I received a promotion. I used to work in healthcare, so I was a health administrator. I received a promotion from a fellow woman of color. And it was great. I did all this work, and then she's like, just kidding, I'm not going to pay you for it, and you're not going to get shit. That's basically what happened. And so from there, that put me in a traumatic environment. So every day I went to work, it was PTSD, because she also went on maternity leave. And a more inclusive way to say that is bonding leave, right? So she went on bonding leave for like a year, and everyone knew I was her number two, but I wasn't getting paid number two money. And so I would say no. And then I became an asshole because I'm like, I'm not getting paid. Why am I doing this thing? I'm not getting paid, right? Didn't communicate. So that started this PTSD cycle, and it was the uptick of my trauma, my workplace trauma. But I didn't have time because I'm a Black woman. So I was working full-time and doing my doctoral program full-time. My doctorate's in leadership and organizational behavior. It's a 4 to 7 year program. I did it in 3 years, again, while working full-time. So the month after I graduated, I knew something was wrong because I didn't feel right. I felt tired, obviously, and exhausted, but mentally I was not okay. And so I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder by 2 different providers. And then I was like, okay, cool. Went to Thailand. I talk about that in the book, did some Eat, Pray, Love stuff, and then came back. And I was like, I just need to find another job because I'm realizing, and I didn't know this, that my work life can affect my overall mental health. I didn't put 2 and 2 together because my mom was a single mom part of my life. She had all these titles. My parents are both workaholics. And I'm like, oh, you just work. And then, but then I'm like, no, work is not my identity. My identity is who you see right now talking to you. And so I got another job at another big health organization, top floor, really felt like the Olivia Pope of diversity, power suits, 10-minute commute, parking for free. These are important things, especially in the Bay Area. I was like, yeah, there's a gym I can just go to in this building for free. Like, I'm just going to do all the things. And my white male boss in his mid-60s from Stockton, California, looked at me and said in our one-on-one meeting, I didn't think you were that smart when I interviewed you, but you are smart. And I was doing a whole bunch of math in my head. I was like, wait, what? Because I was like, wait, this is a doctoral preferred position I applied to. They're paying me 6 figures. I am the only executive coach for 300 plus executives. What? Did he really just say that? So I said, that is hurtful. Why would you say that? Because I was transparent in my application. My name is Dr. Akilah Cadet. The person before me also had a doctorate and also was a Black woman. So what's up? And he was like, oh, I guess it's offensive. I'm sorry. And I said, yes. And now I need to rebuild my trust with you because again, that was hurtful. And then he fired me the next week. And I was like, wait, what? And I was still under my probationary period. Fast forward, I was able to buy all the shoes I wanted to buy because I'm the child of a lawyer, and I chose to take legal action and hold him accountable. Yes. He eventually was like fired. I was very happy about that.
Yes.
I hope he's miserable. But at that moment, when I was fired, I had never been fired in my life. I worked a lot in health and public health, as I mentioned. So I've been laid off because the funding source was gone, which I was used to, but I'd never been fired. I've had horrible bosses, but I left on my own terms. And so when that lady, that woman of color kind of screwed me over before, I started my company, Change Cadet, as a side hustle while finishing school. Didn't make any sense to pour into me. I wanted to know if I actually made sense. And with my own clients, they're like, thank you for solving this. You were so right. Thank you so much. And I wasn't getting that. And so I was like, let me just cash out 95% of my retirement, fund myself, because I already knew systems and structures of white supremacy. I didn't have a job, so how would I get a business loan? I'm a Black woman, so how would I get a business loan? I'm a Black person, so how would I get a business loan? I'm a woman, so how would I get a business loan? You know, like all of that. And
all
so
the intersections.
exactly. And so I funded myself. And I struggled. It was really, really, really hard because it took a while to get my money. I talk about it in the book, but eventually I was able in 1 week to get $250,000 in contracts in 1 week. And that changed my life. And from there, I built it into the company that you see today.
And that's just so encouraging to hear, because women, a lot of women who are in these spaces, because I mean, let's face it, you know, a lot of us are told, you know, go get the education, don't just get the bachelor's, get the master's, get the doctorate, get, you know, all of these things. And none of those things are necessarily a guarantee that you are going to be able to step into these places and really have success. Or even if you do have success, there's a price that comes with that success oftentimes.
Exactly. And I did it. So again, talking about that box, 9 to 5 spaces wanted me to fit in the box. I did exactly what you said, Marcie. I did all of those things. And somehow I was still the problem. I was always the problem. I wasn't Black enough, or I was too Black, or I was too smart. But she's smart and pretty? Wait, no, they like her more than me. Like bosses, they like her more than me because I'm funny, I'm likable, I care, I pay attention, I'm a Virgo. I do lots of things that people like, you know? And then all of a sudden I became the competition, even though I did all the things I was supposed to do. So here I am 9 years later, and this is the best company I've ever worked for because I can be myself. Here I am 9 years later, and he's also writing this book. I was just like, I'm so glad I got fired. It, you know, it was obviously really hard and traumatic, but I got fired for being my true authentic self. I said, you were not going to treat me this way. And other times I would accept it, but I knew my worth. And that was really the game changer. And so a lot of how I built this company is telling my story that so many people can relate to, which has led to this book.
Yes. And that's why I wanted you to bring that up, because so many people find themselves in that situation where, you know, it comes a time where you have to make a decision. And I just think that even though you were doing the most, as they would say, you come from a high achieving family, though, and you do talk about that book, you know, just the family history is people, you know, were achieving. And I think for so many of us, that's what we've been taught to do. And it's easy to get on that hamster wheel of, you know, get the next whatever. But like I said, there's always a cost to pay and a price to pay. And it's so refreshing to see someone like you who's like, you know what? Deuces, I'm going to go over here and do my own thing. So another thing, in the last couple of chapters of the book, you talk about some things that I want we can leave everyone with. One is to celebrate your wins. Talk about the importance of being able to celebrate our wins.
Yeah. So I think it's really important to celebrate the little wins. So I've shared that I live with disability. I share that I have major depressive disorder. I'm also a Black disabled woman living in this white world. White supremacy is all around me. I'm at a point in my life where the only safe, supportive space for me is my home. Because as soon as I go outside, you know, I can get racism, I can get sexism, I can get discrimination, but I also have to deal with ableism too when I go out. And ableism is from everyone, including fellow disabled people. I get it in so many different ways. So like, for example, I'm a board member of the Ehlers-Danlos Society, and it's the foremost leading organization for what I have, EDS, in the world. And they were so excited about my book. They posted on their Instagram about my book. I was attacked by white people who also have EDS. Why my pain wasn't believed? Why are we talking about her pain not being believed? It took me a long time to be diagnosed, but it seems like she got, you know, there's all this hate that came from my own group, right? Because again, white supremacy is all around, right? Of how it shows up. And so navigating disability, I'm going on my 7th year of being disabled, in addition to being a Black person and a woman, every day is a challenge for me, every single day. I'm sitting on a donut right now and a heating pad. I, after this, have to put my feet up. I was in the emergency room this weekend. But I also have white women who are mad at me because I'm telling the truth about Taylor Swift. I'm navigating so many different things right now at this moment in time. I am constantly working on business development to pay my employees for my company. I've had half of a salary for 2 years because it's not the same, but I need people to support me to do this, all the stuff that's going on. But you know what? I got up today.
Yes.
Right. And I put on a little bit of makeup for Marcie.
Yeah.
Which I'm very proud of. So I celebrate those things. I celebrate the fact that I took shower. I celebrate the fact that I was able to sit here from like 9 to 6 p.m. This is a win for me. And that's because the graduation, the wedding, the promotion, the award, those are limited experiences to celebrate. But the everyday is something that we can celebrate, because when we celebrate the everyday, we're giving ourselves what society can't give us, what friends or family can't give us. And so, like I said earlier, everything else becomes a +1. And so when you celebrate the little wins, you are constantly affirming how amazing you are. So one of my mantras, I say it's also on a t-shirt, is keep being amazing. I sign my emails by saying keep being amazing. And that's because I'm amazing. So I write it for myself. But also, if that person forgot that they're amazing, they're like, is she saying that about me? Yes, I am. I am amazing. Yes, you are. And if you weren't thinking about it, now you know, right? That's there. So it's really important to celebrate the little wins, and also to find ways to tap into joy. This world is full of so many things right now. And it's a scary time. I say, and I don't say this lightly, we're on the heels of Jim Crow. Affirmative action's gone. Roe versus Wade. There's constant battles over, people with uteruses, body parts. Black women are under attack. DEI programs are under attack. You can't teach Black history, in certain schools, certain states. We're seeing what's happening with Gaza, Palestine, Jewish people, Israel. There's so many things. There's a famine in Sudan. There's so many things that are happening right now. So many things. And when there's so many things that are hard to take, we're seeing babies being murdered and die, all this other stuff. It's harder and harder to find joy. But if we don't find joy, then we can't do the collective progressive work that's needed so that we can dismantle white supremacy, so that we can show up. So I want to encourage people to also find these little pockets of joy wherever that is. For me, it could be a fruit by the foot. It could be a Capri Sun. It could be a funny TV show. But finding joy is, unfortunately, a form of resistance to help us continually move forward.
That's right, because someone's always trying to steal our joy. So yes, to be able to find those little moments or pockets. Last week I was sharing with some coworkers about the importance of being able to play, for example. Figuring out some type of way to play, because it's all about work, hustle, earn, or whatever the case may be. But being able to play is so important. And, for us, especially because we're always doing, things we have to do for ourselves, our bosses, our families, whatever. But being able to play is so important.
So important to laugh. I mean, the example I always use for play and how it's important is if you go to a children's hospital, when they're there because they're sick or recovering or a surgery, they have video games, they have art studios, they have colorful walls, they have cool little features and things so that they can feel good while they don't feel good. Right. But if you go to a hospital, like the adult hospital, we have sterile walls. We don't get to play games. We don't get to do those types of things. And there's something about it's like, okay, well, now you're going to high school. So you play activities, like just figure out how to, be part of the student group for getting people together, or academics. And it starts to fizzle away. But I can see so much beautiful art behind you. And I don't know if you're painting it, but it is beautiful.
Yes, that's my stuff. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But that's you. That's a form of play, being able to tap into art. I do the same thing with the films the documentaries I direct or produce. My book is play. My book is art. I'm telling stories. I love to write. I'm putting that out there. So finding a way to tap into that is more powerful than what people realize. Even like you can see like some kids are playing Guess Who again. They're playing like childhood games. That's why I have Capri Suns. my pocket of joy, it reminds me of my childhood. And Capri Sun, and it's a little part of joy, and so it's fun to have like that playful sense that's in there.
That's funny. Well, I have another comment to share. But yeah, I one of the things that I do in my spare time, I love reading so much. I have been spending once a week going and reading to kids in school, right? And yesterday was like the last day for the school year. And one of the little girl, I read to a little girl and a little boy, but the little girl, she gave me her Capri Sun.
See? But let me tell you, she gave you platinum. This is like, ooh, she was like, I thank you so much. The amount of things that she could have gotten back for a trade for that Capri Sun, she didn't care. She wanted to give it to you because you brought her joy, which has also brought you joy,
Yes, and I enjoyed that Capri Sun because I hadn't had one in years. But yes, we have and this is actually one of my sorority sisters, Karen. I found joy in rain the last couple of days. I've been very busy, and the rain allowed me to stay at home and relax. Also, I didn't have to water my plants.
But what Karen is saying is so powerful because some of us would be like, oh, it's raining, it's going to ruin my day or my hair or whatever. But now, particularly ever since I knew I could die at any moment in time, I've always done this, but I do this more. I play in puddles. I have rain boots. I will go in the puddle. I will just walk in the rain. I will feel the rain. I will look at it. I will celebrate it because these are moments of stillness and reconnecting to ourselves. And I think that's the part that's really powerful. And a lot of us have to do that because of systems and structures of white supremacy. It's an active resistance to find these things of joy, to say, no, I'm not going to come in on that day. No, I'm not going to reply back to this email. No, I am not going to put all the orange slices together for my kids' soccer practice. Another mom can do that. I've been doing it for the past 2 years. Like, these are ways in which you can tap into yourself and joy and be able to like be in the moment and have fun and play.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the last thing, you actually already mentioned it, but I want to just tap into it a little bit more about keep being amazing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if we are not realizing that through these layered systems and structures that we operate at in your cafe, the grocery store, going to work, being in your car, all of the stuff that really doesn't want you to thrive and be here, and you do, that is amazing. I'm happy to be biased towards like Black women or oppressed women. You are, at work, taking care of the kid or taking care of family, holding the weight, trying to work on your relationship, all this other stuff. That's amazing that you're able to still show up. We were talking about our hair earlier, and I laid down my edges today, but I didn't have the capacity.
I got mine covered up.
But it's great, to cover it up. And I'll like put on a hat when I don't feel like doing my hair, but those are ways of joy too. Cause it's like, I know I will show up and be amazing because this is what I have to offer. And I will look like shit. I don't care. And I could still be amazing. You know what I mean? Because we woke up, we're doing the thing. We're still showing up. We're saying yes to the yeses. We're saying no to the nos. And that in itself is amazing.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. That is so good. This is so good. And, there are a lot of things that you talk about in the book that we couldn't even touch on it. We would be here for another couple hours, but the whole point is for people to read the book. So
that is true. Yes.
That's why we're here. But, other things that you talk about, you do talk about like your relationships and, challenges being, it's fantabulous woman that you are. And so,
which is a wonderful reminder, Marcie. I am single. So if y'all know of any men, that you can just give them my Facebook account or slide my DMs or whatever. Send me an email. I don't care. Go through the website. I'm available. I am deserving of love and support.
Yes. Same, sis, same. But make sure quality is key.
Quality.
Just any man.
I recently met a pimp, and he said, you need to, I was in LA. It was a very colorful experience. He was celebrating his birthday by himself. I treated him to a little cake, but he said, you need to check a man's principles before you check for his penis. And I was like, you were not wrong. And then he also said, yes. And he also said, there are men who are hatched and there are men who are raised. And I was like, you know what? Because you can be born and come into this earth, but did you grow? Were you supported? Were you nurtured so that you know what you need so you can show up for your partner? However you want to date, whoever you identify. But I think that's important. It's pimp wisdom. I think that's important. Like really understanding, you know, someone's principles, where they're showing up. And if they are in a position, for me, are you in a position to constantly learn and unlearn? Because even though I talk about white supremacy and all these things, I can't know everything. I don't want to know everything. I want to read books like you, Marcie. I want to continuously learn and unlearn. I want to not know who I'm going to be in 10 years. Like I'll have the core of who I am. But if someone asked me 10 years ago if I would own a soccer team, I'd be like, no, I don't want to own a soccer team. Doesn't make any sense. Yet here I am. I own.
Oh yes, please talk about that. We didn't bring it up. Please talk about that.
Oh yeah, I'm one of the owners. We have a wonderful ownership group of the Oakland Roots and Soul. The Roots are the men's team and the Soul are the women's team. And Pimp Wisdom, yes, Karen. And so I didn't know that I would own soccer teams, but I was asked by the primary owner to help them raise money, and one day I helped them raise $1 million. And then at the end of our round, it was $3.1 million. And I became an owner of a team. And so the Oakland Roots and Soul Sports Club, we are the only purpose-driven professional sports team in the entire country that gives 1% of everything to the Common Goal Fund. And so Common Goal is all about equality and social justice. And we are one of the few sports teams in the country to have a chief purpose officer. So we're really aligned with purpose, community, and uplifting oppressed groups. And yeah, it's great. So, you know, again, going back to my earlier point, because I'm continuously learning and unlearning, I'm able to be open to these things that I didn't even know can serve me and bring in joy, opportunity, money, you know, all of that. But that's because of learning and unlearning. And so Pimp Wisdom, check for those principles and see if they are, if they have, you know, if they're in a position to really support you. And that's not just for your partner. It's your people you're working with, your friend group, all of that. Because that's another part of joy. So many of us, particularly Black women, are like, well, girl, she's been my friend for years. I do not need to be friends with anyone who does not want to learn and unlearn, because I solve so many people's problems. I can't sit here. We can talk about what he did to you that one time, but we can't do it over and over again. We can't be in positions where we're already being drained because we're already drained by society, right? And that's tapping into joy. That's how we can keep being amazing, you know? So.
Now that's some Pimp Wisdom too.
It's so funny. Like he really thought that he was going to try to come and like figure me out. And I was like, no, I literally told him game recognizes game. Right. And then he looked at me and he was like, you know what to do. I said, I do. I do. So I too have Pimp Wisdom, which is why I don't, you know, that's why I do what I do. That's why I show up authentically. My Pimp Wisdom.
And I love it. I mean, we need more of it in the world, you know, and that's what when I first found out about your book and what you were doing, I'm like, oh, I got to get you.
I'm so happy to be here. And I just want to say, Marcie, thank you for having a space for, you know, Black and brown women to come together. A collective is really powerful because we can celebrate each other and the moments when we are tired, you know, and to just have that space where we can be seen, valued, and heard. So thank you for that. And thank you for seeing and valuing and hearing me today. I appreciate
it. Absolutely. Because it's just so important to, you know, hear different voices and different perspectives. And I mean, you bring the knowledge and, you know, like I said, for everyone, put the name of the book back up there again. When you read it, there's just so much to learn. Yes, it's white supremacy is all around, but there, like I said, there's so many other things that get tapped into in this book. And I think it's just powerful, the work that you're doing. So with all of the things you have going on, you know, what is there anything in particular that's coming up that maybe people can see you in person or, you know, other platforms you may be on that they can, you know, like follow your social and get more information?
So following social, thank you for having the website and all of my handles up there. It's Change Cadet, like cadet. You can find me. I'm actively on a book tour, so we will have regular events coming up. So you can check the website out or my Instagram to know where I will be. I am also finalizing a documentary called Sounds About White, the untold story of the DEI expert. We're doing a private screening in New York. So if you really want to go, just message me to get some feedback. And then I'm working on film festivals or distribution for that. And I mean, otherwise, just, you know, when you're dealing with folks that are taking your energy and you don't feel like explaining things, just tell them to come follow me or share, you know, something on there. Because I have chosen the path of someone who is a dismantler of white supremacy to take that weight, particularly from oppressed people, particularly from women of color. So you don't have to explain yourself. You can come to my page and be seen, or give that person who can't see you something from my page to support you. And then you're all are welcome to slide in my DMs too. It doesn't have to be a guy that you know who may be interested in me, or that guy. I also want to support and celebrate you too. So if you can't celebrate yourself one day, just slide in my DMs. It makes me feel good to be able to do what I can to support you and or commiserate with you or celebrate you as well.
Well, thank you so much. I knew it was going to be good. So I'm so excited. See the big smile on my face. I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to have this conversation. Akilah, you are the bomb.com, and
how are you?
Everyone who watched, you know, enjoyed. And for those who maybe came in late or whatever the case may be, please, you know, go back and watch, share it with others who need to just get this information. And I have to share, there is a Brown Girl Collective bookstore that's affiliated with Bookshop. So if you go there directly, you will find the book available prominently, so you can see to go ahead and grab a copy. So thank you so much again. I just need you to hold on for me 1 second.
Of course. And then reviews. If anyone wants to review my book, reviews are helpful. That helps with getting more books sold. Tell your friends about it. I should have done that. I forgot I'm a saleswoman. Buy my book, please. You can buy it. You can download it. You can listen to it. If you like this voice, I narrate the book. So please support, review, gift my book.
Yes, absolutely. All of the above. Well, thank you again for your time. I want to bid everyone else adieu, and we look forward to seeing you again next week, where we're going to dive into more powerful conversations that help us all to live well. So we look forward to seeing you again real soon. And everybody go ahead and follow Dr. Cadet, because she is that chick.
I am. And keep being amazing, y'all.
Yeah. All right, and talk to you everyone real soon. Take good care. All right, bye.